Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome to this week's session. So as usual, right, I'll run through the markets, highlight some of the opportunities available over here. Then very quickly we'll see if you guys have any questions that you'd like to kind of clarify, okay? So let's start off with the dollar index. Overall last week has been quite quiet. For some of these major pairs, we are starting to see some sort of a consolidation. Potential pullback here as well. Okay, so dollar index, kind of zoom out a little bit. The overall trend and sequence is technically still in a bearish market. From any wave perspective, if we kind of take it from this high, okay, we have this 1 and 2, the internal 5-wave structure here with potentially wave 3. And of course, right now we are likely expecting some sort of a wave 4 pullback, right? And then if we're gonna get a corrective pullback on wave 4, we're gonna maintain a bearish bias overall and expect one more push to complete wave 5. Okay. So at this moment, what we're looking out for is a short-term pullback, which opens up the opportunity to look for the retracement buy trade to the upside. So the definition of short-term again, of course, is relative. But for me, short-term basically is more like week to week. What are we really looking at, right? So this week, if we can get some decent pullback, maybe towards around like 98.9 to the 98.7 zone, and of course if price is gonna retrace higher and give us that buy trade opportunity, we want this low to be respected, right? So that will give us a very simple one to trade to the upside, right? A very conservative expectation is for price to come back and retest this high. But of course, there's a good possibility as well where price can actually come back as high as this recent previous low, right? So that will put you around 101.50. Okay, so in the near term, at least for this week, the focus is to scout for buy trade opportunity to see for upside, okay? So that's on the dollar index, and of course if you look at some of the major pairs, we are looking at short-term dollar strength. Okay, so euro dollar over here, if you can get a decent pullback, we're kind of expecting the move down to complete a 3-wave as well, right? 1, 2, 3. This would also possibly work out into a head and shoulder pattern, right? With this as the neckline here. And that can actually mean also, a deeper pullback towards like this levels, right? Because then head and shoulder is simple 1-to-1 projection, will put you somewhere there, okay? So this one here, if you go down to the lower time frame, you can definitely scout for a setup to sell it, right? One of the simplest setup, of course, if you're looking at Fibonacci key retracement, 15.618 will be the key area, and then your kind of like invalidation will be at that swing high. Okay, so you can easily set up and trade or some sort of a sell limit order if you just want to trade off the fibs, and then look for the downside, and then of course your invalidation stop loss can be placed above there. Okay, now that's the simplest model. Of course, if you have additional criteria that you're looking into, you can also add that in. For me, I'm not too much on looking at the euro because I personally currently focusing more on the GBP USD. Okay, so again, these two pairs are kind of closely correlated, so I wouldn't want to be looking at taking an entry to sell on both, right? So I'm looking at the GBP USD one, so euro dollar I'm kind of like putting aside. Okay, now there's a slight reason why I'm choosing the pound instead of the euro. Because on the lower time frame, the pound actually gives a clearer setup conditions, right? Because based on certain conditions, certain criteria that I want to see, GBP USD has that, whereas euro dollar did not. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about this as well. So GBP USD here, you can see the overall sequence is still bullish, but we're kind of expecting a pullback, right? We're expecting this pullback to come back towards 50% mark, somewhere at 1.3060. Okay, so the plan here is to look for sell trade opportunity, and in the short term, the hourly over here, okay, we do have a valid setup, right? Because we have a very nice little double top, okay, liquidity sweep, and then the market can move down impulsively, break that neckline, And then we have this fair value gap area and of course some fits, right? So this one here is where the setup differs between the euro and the pound, right? So pound we have that double top kind of break of the net line, whereas euro we don't really have that. Okay, but again, depending on your strategy and the setup, right? So euro dollar we can look out for is kind of a similar like 1, 2, 3. You can use this as a liquidity sweep zone to look for a sell. You can also see this as a potential triangle structure forming, right? So you have this impulse leg, this is a triangle, then we expect one more push. So again, different traders will have different preference of their setup. There's no one size fit all, there's no such thing as the best setup. You just need to be comfortable with the style that you're using to trade. Okay, so GBP USD, that's the plan. Aussie dollar, pretty similar as well in terms of the overall expectation. Definitely bullish sequence, but we're kind of expecting that pullback, right? The only thing that separates my point of view from between the euro and the pound as well as the Aussie is that the Aussie doesn't give us an impulse leg down, right? Whereas the euro and the pound, you can see that in the near term we have this mini impulse leg. Okay, so Aussie over here, I don't think there will be something meaningful that's going to set up at the moment. Probably it's going to take time, because if you want that pullback to start giving us some sort of a confirmation, you want to see some sort of an impulsive leg. Right now we don't have it, so I'm just going to be patient on this. Probably not going to get anything within the week. Yeah, but I'd rather focus on like euro or even the pound. Okay. Dollar CAD here is starting to do a massive consolidation. My expectation remains the same as of last week. The sequence is still bearish. Okay, however, I think that this has a good odds of eventually becoming a crawl, a diagonal. So you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And after that, there's a good possibility we'll see a major pullback or potentially a reversal up. Okay, so short term here we can still consider some short term sell opportunity if there is any valid setup. And then if I gotta put in the label, okay, this is the expectation that we'll have. Okay, so the 5-wave diagonal structure. Yeah, so depending on how you have your trade setup and criteria, you can even consider having like sell stop. Okay, simple ones like sell stop, invalidation just above it. If the market really move lower and break out that low, you can target somewhere between the 1.3750. Okay, so that would give a very nice little diagonal structure completion. Okay, so yeah, you can see over here bearish sequence. Expectation is price to complete the cross structure, and then the trade plan moving forward is to look for a reversal trade, because after this you expect this. Okay, GBP USD, sorry, not GBP, USD JPY. We are expecting price to make a retracement. Okay, the overall trend is still bearish, you can see that, right? But I think near term here we get a V-shaped formation, so we are expecting a 1, 2, 3, some sort of a pullback, and the trade plan here is to wait for price to do a corrective pullback, and then after which we'll look for a short-term buy. Okay, and that will complete potentially something like this, and then the market can continue lower. But for now, because earlier today in the morning, okay, we're still basically at the top. Just give it time and see if this pulls back, right? Because we want to establish a swing high first before we can really measure where's that key level, right? Because if this is going to be a swing high, then we know, okay, 50%, 6.8, that's a key area to look for a buy. Okay, so this one here, maybe slightly towards the midweek or Thursday, will give us some sort of a potential trade opportunity. Okay, gold, okay, had a massive run, and of course right now we're kind of expecting a pullback. Again, when market push off an impulsive move, you don't want to be really trading at the top, right? you don't need to catch the very top or the very bottom. Same thing here, we don't want to be selling here just because the market is at the top. We will not know that the market is at the top until, okay, we have all this, and then, okay, then we know, right, in hindsight. So the thing is, we don't need to catch the very top or the very bottom. Okay, but what we can always capitalize on, for example, in this case, is that we are looking at this being a first leg down. If this is going to correctively develop, we can expect one more, right? So we can trade this. Okay, so you can see the sequence is bullish, right? I mean, the market is still putting high lows, but we are expecting short term to pull back towards 2330, right? And the trade plan here is to look for sell setup, right? Yeah, so the idea here is, for those of you who are receiving the daily reports, you can see some of this. I kind of simplify a bit, right? Previously, I wrote in a lot of text, but right now I break it into three very simple part here that you can really reference to, right? The primary sequence is essentially just what's the overarching market direction, right? On the H4 perspective is bullish, right? The market is still basically in an uptrend. The expectation is what I'm expecting the market to do now, right? In terms of the most recent expectation, you can see over here is to pull back, right? Which means 1, 2 trade. Okay, and then the trade plan is essentially within the week itself, what can we look out for? Okay, so in this case here, you can see short term is to sell because we are looking at the expectation of a pullback towards this area, so we can look for sell trade setups. Okay, so that's how you can understand, simple things like this. And then of course, like some fit levels are basically the key areas and point of interest. Okay, so between gold and silver, I'm actually focusing more on silver as a potential sell. The primary reason is again quite similar to what I've explained in Euro and GBP. Based on the setup conditions, silver presents the criteria for me, but gold not really, right? So gold kind of like similar to Euro dollar. There is that valid opportunity, but silver presents the conditions and the criteria that I need. Okay, so silver here, it's bullish. You can see the market is going up. Basically, that can be our first move, right? Like in terms of wave, that's first wave, and then this can be like wave 2 pullback, right? So the sequence is bullish. The expectation is for price to pull back towards 30.8, and the trade plan here is to look for sell, right? So if you go to silver on the hourly time frame, you can see liquidity sweep, break of structure. Okay, of course there's a requirement for some adjustment with price putting another low. Okay, so that would be slightly adjusted. Okay, and if price can pull back towards like the 3.3, that will present the opportunity itself. Okay, the only thing here is that we don't have a valid kind of fair value gap on the lower time frame on the hourly, right? I mean, there is this fair value gap, but this fair value gap is not really close to our entry point. The part here is lacking on that, right? So it's not like a perfect setup, right? But it's still to me a valid one, right? Because on the high time frame, if you zoom in, you do see that fair value gap on the H4. Okay, here it's just that again, it's not the perfect one, but I feel that it's a valid one, and it's something that is worthwhile to be looking into. Okay. Then we have crude oil. Crude oil is also something that I'm looking into. I think in the near term, there's a good possibility we'll see the continuation of this pullback, right? So we have this move up. Currently, we are expecting this to pull back towards 60, okay, close to $60, and then after which maybe one more push up, right? 3-wave structure. So expectation on this is price to move towards $60, and then the plan here is to look for short-term sell, right? This one here, there is that opportunity. Okay, so last week, again, depending on how tight your stop loss is, this particular trade, when we shared last week, there's this fair value gap here. Okay, our entry was somewhere there. Again, it's missing that liquidity sweep, right? But to me, again, that is worth considering. Okay, price actually came very, very close to this top, right? So again, it's a matter of like how tight your stop is, slippage, spread, factors like that. yeah, whether it tags out as a stop or eventually hits the target, really depends on that, right? But of course, that's part of trading. Um, whatever the outcome is just one trade. Okay, so that's about it. And then right now it's presenting another opportunity. Okay, so over here, what we're seeing is that we can now take this as a mini double top, right? We have this breakup structure. We have a very obvious fair value gap created here. Okay, so this is something that we can look into. If price actually pulls back towards like 63.7, that would present a sell trade opportunity. Okay, so that is pretty much aligned with the hard time frame here as well. S&P 500 did a move up, right? So right now we are looking at price potentially turning bullish, right? So just to guide you a little bit on how to understand this table, right? Primary sequence is bearish, right? So what does it mean is that today, if you look at the bigger picture perspective, we are technically still in the downtrend, right? You have this lower low, lower high, right? Price haven't really cleared this off. So from a technical point of view, it's still bearish. However, the expectation doesn't necessarily mean you're going to sell it, right? Because the trend can be bearish, but what we're doing here is we're also identifying potential, one, the retracement we can trade it, number two, the potential reversal. Okay, so case in point here, you are the S&P 500. What I'm looking at is there's a possibility of price might be turning bullish, right? Which means, yes, it's bearish, but there's a good odd that the bearish sequence is complete and we might turn bullish. Okay, so what we're looking at, the trade plan here, you can see is to look for buy setup, while the overall arcing trend is still bearish. Now, we are looking at potentially the reversal things, right? So of course, it doesn't mean that the market is definitely going to go up, right? So there's still that invalidation level here, okay? Which means if today the market decides to just come down and break that low, obviously the expectation would change, okay? But for now, we are looking at potential upside, right? So if we can get a corrective pullback here, we'll look for the buy trade, right? But for now, we don't have a setup, okay? So we're just waiting for the setup to come to us, okay? GBP USD, this one, GBP JPY, this one here, I'm gonna suggest to be patient. Price is essentially just at the top, right? It's still bearish sequence, right? If you look at it from a hard time frame perspective, it's still bearish sequence, but potentially turning bullish, right? Because this can be completed, we can start to see upside, right? But for now, we're just gonna be patient because we are at the top. Okay, so nothing much that we can really, take advantage of. So we're just going to be patient on this, right? Same thing here in the Aussie yen. Okay, we're going to be patient and see how price is going to develop moving forward. Okay, so basically when you see trade plan being patient means that my suggestion is to just stay away first, give the market sufficient time to develop into something clearer before coming back. GBP AUD, this one here, the market is overall still bullish, you can see that, right? But I personally think that the top may have been established, and of course right now the analysis stands the point where if this is just going to be a corrective pullback and this high is being respected, we can expect some sort of a deeper pullback or even the reversal of a trend. Okay, so short term here, I don't see a buy setup. Okay, I mean there are some conditions that maybe allow you to get involved in the buy, but we did not get that impulse late. Okay, that breaks all this high, right? So the market is essentially just consolidating. So yes, the expectation here is for price to maybe pull back towards this level, but I don't see something worth buying yet. Okay, so my plan here is to wait for price to complete this pullback and then potentially look to sell it. Okay, as of now, right? Of course, if price develops something differently, then we need to update our plan accordingly. But for now, I will not be looking to buy it up. Okay, I will not be looking to trade that retracement up. But we'll wait for the pullback to complete, and then in that key area, we'll look for the setup to sell. Okay. Then lastly here to update you guys is Bitcoin. Bitcoin here is quite obvious. It's a bullish sequence now. Okay, I mean, this one can be updated. You can see that price is essentially breaking structure to the upside. Right, so definitely bullish sequence. The expectation here is for price to pull back, right? I mean, you don't want to be buying at the top. This seems to be developing a little bit of a crawl. Okay, you don't want to sell it at the top either. You want to sell the pullback. You always wait for a confirmation, right? If price comes down impulsively, take out some of these lows, wait for the pullback, and then we can look to trade this retracement to the downside. Okay, but I think overall sequence from there, as of now, Bitcoin low might have been established, and as long as this low is there, we can expect upside. Okay, so short term, we expect the pullback to the downside. It might open up a sell trade opportunity, maybe closer towards the end of this week. That's something to note, right? But for now, there's nothing, so just be patient. Okay, so I think for now, as of today, what we're seeing here, overall, we do have the pound dollar. Of course, euro dollar is there as well, right? But for me personally, I'm focusing on the pound. And then of course gold and silver both has it, but I'm personally focused on silver, and then crude oil here also presents that opportunity. All good, right? So those are some things to take note of. Okay. Yeah, that's generally it. All good. Okay. Yeah. So those are the things that I think it's worth noting for now. Let me just very quickly scan through and see if there's anything worth noting in other indices. Yeah, I don't really track all indices very frequently, other than the S&P, right? Other than S&P. Yeah. Okay. So nothing that really stands out on the indices. Okay. Now some pairs I don't look into, right? But I think the opportunity can be quite clear as well, like dollar franc here, right? For those of you who are looking into dollar franc, you can see this structure. It's actually a pretty classic model, right? We have this low sweep, kind of broke that low, but the market reverses quite instantly. Take out the high as well, right? So if this pulls back, that would open up a buy trade opportunity, okay, from a SMC kind of model, right? So if you look at this here, we also have this fair value gap, right? Which if you pull Fips from swing low to the current swing high, you have that 61% there as well, right? So dollar franc may have that opportunity, right? For that pullback, then you can look to buy. Okay. Chinese yuan, USD CNY. Okay, try this and see. Okay, this chart looks a little bit cleaner. Right, this one here, I would take it, if I zoom out, right? If this is the low, this is how I would see it. Okay, this is how I see it. Yeah, the conditions are all fulfilled. So definitely this is where I'll see as potential wave 5 completed. Alright, I would definitely mark this as a swing high. Right, I think this is pretty similar to the pound odd chart, right? If you look at pound Australia, there is some similarity in terms of the price pattern. Okay, look at this versus pound odd, right? Very similar in terms of the overall what things are developing. So I think this one here, short term, you can expect maybe a little bit of upside, okay, towards like key areas of 50%, and then after which you look for a sell. This one here, of course, you don't just buy it up, right? But I think we are likely developing into some sort of a move like this, right? So this might even come down lower first, right? This might do something like this, and then the push up, a pull back, pull up, and then down, right? So what you can look out for is if this comes down, right, you can look out for a potential sweep of this low, right? So it's kind of a mini fake break. Then this would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in terms of Elliott wave. You wait for the first push up that breaks the high, right? That would be your confirmation that the pullback is starting. You don't need to trade the very, very bottom, right? You can wait for confirmation where price move up, do a retracement trade. You take the third trade up, right? You take the third wave, right, to the upside, to some retracement key area, and then from there you take profit and potentially see if you can get a sell opportunity. Okay. So that would be what I would look out for. That would be the trade plan to look out for. Okay, for the dollar, Chinese yuan. All good. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So generally, that's my update. Just a quick check. Any other questions that you guys have? All good. Cool. Yeah. If no other questions, generally that's the update that I have. Okay. So let's see how the market is gonna develop for the week. Yeah. Okay. Do keep track of the daily updates as well. Okay. And hopefully today give you an idea, how to best utilize the analysis given to you as well. Okay. So yep, that's all from me. All the best for the week, and I'll keep you guys updated in the reports as well as yeah, we'll see you guys next week on the live stream. Okay, so that's all. See you guys. All the best. Good night.